Hello, it's Phillip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. Today I'm looking at a book which has come to us from Wildy, Simmonds and Hill Publishing Limited. Now they produce a whole range of their own publications. Wildy's being well known, I'm sure, to many people as the only legal booksellers now in London, based in Lincoln's Inn. First class bookshop, well worth a visit any time you're in London. Certainly if you're a practitioner, it's a fundamental to get up to date with what's available on the market now that it's the only bookshop left. What they've done in fact is they've got a publishing arm and they've produced a series of practitioner guides which I think are first class, not just for practitioners, but they're also very useful for people who are unrepresented parties. The one I'm looking at today is the Practitioner's Guide to Mental Health Law, and it's been written by Michael Butler. Mental health law is misunderstood by a lot of people. The people in Parliament should be ashamed of themselves for producing such appalling legislation. It's never been dealt with properly. It's taken the royal family to have to give it a really quite higher profile because people don't like talking about this area. But it's a problem that's with us because it covers a very wide range of difficulties that we have within society. And it's one area I do feel where we've got quite a lot of work to do. So this book by Butler is going to give us, and does in fact impart, a lot of very useful information which I think will be of benefit to a very wide readership. Now, Elizabeth and I talked about the book and the series of books which I'm reviewing, the Practitioner Guides, and we've given it a title, An Important New Work for All Involved in Mental Health as legal issues continue to develop. Because at the moment, as I've said, we do have the main body in terms of statutory provisions, but we still don't have agreement, and we certainly didn't have agreement in the past from Parliament about the direction in which we're going. And there will be a need at some stage this century for a review of the mental health laws that we currently have. The reason being that we have an ageing population with dementia, we have a whole range of problems with mental capacity, and we certainly have had major problems with whole areas of mental health issues which have been ignored or put away in a drawer because it's not something people are comfortable with, but we have to deal with it. This is why this book is so good. As I say, we've given it that title. Let's look at the book first. It's a hardback, cream cover. All of the guides are in sort of creamish colour. There is the spine, and then at the back you can see some basic information about the contents and the author right at the bottom. Michael Butler is a solicitor advocate and principal of Butler & Co. solicitors, who are leading mental health law practice. And he trains mental health lawyers and other mental health practitioners. So he comes to this book, this subject, with a tremendous amount of knowledge. The index at the back is by page numbering, so you should be able to find things pretty quickly. There's the front of the index there. Then you've got some appendices. There are 12 appendices in total. And if we go to the front of the book, you'll see the front page there. Then after that, you've got some blurb about Wildy's, and then after that you've got the contents section. A lot of contents split into various parts, looking at overview first of all of the Mental Health Act 1983, part 2, part 3, part 4, running on all the way through. It covers a wide range of different areas. Again, part 7, Mental Capacity Act, we're getting up to 2005. Then other aspects of mental health law, and then the final chapter is chapter 25 on mental disorder and criminal law, which of course there is an overlap, and then right at the back of that you have the appendices themselves. Then you have the tables of cases. As I say, this is an area which is becoming a more important area for practitioners. There's the table of statutes there, and then after that you've got some statutory instruments, naturally. Then after that you've got some convention information which is set out. That's the European Convention for the Protection of Human Rights and Fundamental Freedoms, 1950. Then there's an acknowledgement about Michael's firm. Then you've got the structure of the book itself. Introduction, you've got paragraph numbering, and you can see there is throughout a very useful amount of paragraph numbering for the various parts. which is to be expected. There are, in fact, no footnotes in this book, but as I said, looking at the appendices, you've got a lot of information at the back, which basically backs up the content, the main content of the book, and the various parts that make up the 20-odd chapters. So what do we say about the book? Well, Wildy's are to be congratulated for their excellent and helpful series of books, which they call the Practitioner Guides. I've mentioned there are a whole series of them, wills, probate and mental health law, just to name a few. This latest title, To Reach the Stable, is Michael Butler's A Practitioner's Guide to Mental Health Law, and it gives us a comprehensive and accessible text on the complex but fascinating area of mental health law, which is certainly for the specialist. Although this book will help you if you have a problem, you're unrepresented, you've got no money, and you want to know a little bit. It's an easy book to read. And that's one of the good things about a lot of the Wildy's publications. After years and decades of having law books which are really difficult to follow sometimes, it's nice to have simple, straightforward texts which you can follow. And this is one of them. And I'm very, as you gather, sold on it. Now, Butler covers matters of everyday concern to lawyers, advisors, other mental health professionals, and that covers a wide range of people. This should be obviously read by anybody involved in this industry, if I can call it that, but in this particular area of healthcare, because that's what it is. It's clear, easy to read, in a format which is the hallmark of Wildy publications. And I'm going to say one other thing. There are a lot of people in prison with mental illness, and again, prison officers should read this, because at some stage there will be some proper thinking about the way we go with the dealing with people in custody. It hasn't started yet, but this book is one of a number of books where people should be aware of what powers are available and what we do, because at some stage the political gender item about mental health has got to go up the ladder a bit, because we are having to face so many problems with, at the same time, reduced resources because of cuts and everything else. Now, let me go, that's the end of the commercial. Let's go back now to the Mental Health Law Guide itself. It covers the following areas which you may be looking for with your own practice. It starts with the overview of the statutory and regulatory framework for mental health law, and it's listed on the back, and I'll just go through this. Then looks at the impact of the European Court of Human Rights on mental health law, the meaning of mental disorder, law and procedure governing civil admissions to hospital under the Mental Health Act 1983, which is what starts the book off, police powers in respect of the mentally disordered, treatment of patients under Part 4 of the Mental Health Act 1983. So you have all of the basic information there, which of course, as I say, initially very few people knew about this, but this area, but in fact it's become much more important, and therefore people have had to become much more knowledgeable about it. That's certainly firms as solicitors, practitioners, and of course general advisors, and also of course members of the NHS, because again that and the people involved in the prisons, it's this sort of publication which should be giving them some advice about what the law is, where the deficiencies are, and where we might improve, because we will have to do something about this certainly within the next decade, I would have thought, because of the serious problems which are building up at the moment within the prisons, within the health system, and the fact that it hasn't been addressed by Parliament, who've been too busy doing other things. This is an important area and one that will build up. The book also, of course, explains the rules governing the admission to hospital and treatment of children and young persons, and the rights of detained patients. Again, linking it to human rights and whatever's going to happen in the future with that area of law, but it does explain the current position. It covers discharge powers available to responsible clinicians, nearest relatives and hospital managers, and the constitutional role and powers of mental health tribunals, again an important area. It reviews aftercare, guardianship and community treatment orders, and medical treatment and other decision making under the Mental Capacity Act 2005, which again you will find towards the back of the book. Specialist areas which I've found of great significance and help include the issue of DOLS, that's the deprivation of liberty safeguards, which continue to increase, unfortunately, as an area of importance for practitioners, plus mental disorder and the criminal law. Dolls in particular is important because of the number of people now identified as having dementia at whatever level. It's a very difficult area, I know, because I've been quite heavily involved in it. But it is an area that is getting increasingly more important. This book will help. I hope it gives some help to people who have to face a relative with dementia. I certainly think it does. Butler gives us a glossary of key terms and participants in the legal process. He gives a summary of the main differences between English and Welsh law and procedure. He gives definitions and explanations of the main psychiatric disorders. I think that's quite important. And checklists covering the key procedural points in hospital admissions, which are of great help to us, both in court and at conferences. And I just would say on the psychiatric disorders, you don't have to be medically qualified to identify what a disorder is, in my view. And there is far too much nonsense talked about this because there are quite clear-cut disorders. And when the whole of the process is, the waters are muddied, it can cause a huge amount of concern and difficulty for a lot of people, when in fact the reality is a very straightforward disorder. And I think that that's an important point to try to get across, because this is a very difficult emotive area of law in its own right. Now, the guide itself is well described as, quote, a comprehensive and practical guide written by a leading practitioner in the field. That's what he is, and his firm obviously cover this. This expertise is what we need in these step-by-step guides to practice and procedure, because they identify common areas of difficulty and they offer suggested solutions which I think will be of benefit to very many people. Those areas of concern to mental health lawyers are covered in depth to provide a clear and easy to read source of key information for a very wide range of people involved in this. The book examines all aspects of what is a complex but fascinating area of law, and attention of course is paid to the areas of rapid expansion, such as that of mental capacity itself. That means dementia, putting it bluntly. Structured therefore in an accessible way, the book will guide you through the key issues. And as I've said before, it's nice to know this is available, because I do think it gives people a little bit of comfort in what is really can be a very difficult area. There is also helpful detail on the statutory and regulatory framework of mental health law, together with a glossary of key terms and participants. And suggestions for further reading, I think, will probably need to be expanded in the future as this specialist legal area develops. It's inevitable that it is. We've got far more books on the market now than we had before, and I'm very glad to see this particular one here. That there are also links to key organisations, again important, because you sometimes don't know where to turn, so you've got the information here, and other sources of useful information, plus an up-to-date and definitive guide to all relevant case law, with excellent additional assistance and commentary. Butler also features case studies, checklists and frequently asked questions, the FAQs, which are all set out again in a clear and concise manner, which is cost effective as a format, we think, to make this book readable at a reasonable price. That's what Wildy's have done, and I thank them for that. The publication date is stated at 2014, but I actually wrote this review in 2016, and I'm recording it at the beginning of 2017. There's the front, there is the spine, and then there is the back of the book there. Just opening it in the middle, I'm here under the Mental Health Tribunal powers, unrestricted patients. This is detained patients under Section 2 of the Mental Health Act of 1983. You can see the structure. There's a lot of basic information. This is up to date. There obviously will be a new edition of this book out before too long. But I'd like to thank Butler and the team and everybody involved. You make our lives a lot easier by giving us this information to a much more intelligent, understanding population, people who are receiving a much better quality of education today, and they know what the position is. And this book just makes life, I think, easier for all. So thank you very much indeed, and keep your eyes open for new editions, because I suspect before too long we will have a new edition. Thank you anyway to all. Bye bye.